San Manuel is hiring and you're invited to a virtual career expo on Thursday, February 18th from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Explore career options, interview, and apply for positions in facilities, table games, guest services, retail, transportation, slots, and more. Registration is going on now and every day at careerexpo.sanmanuel.com. San Manuel, let's build something greater together.
This week at Macy's, get ready for a spring refresh with an extra 20% off with your coupon or Macy's card. Or check out amazing specials like Levi's jeans for all, now 30 to 40% off. New kids and baby looks, 50% off. And 1,250 thread count 4-piece sheet sets, just $39.99. Plus, Macy's Star Rewards members earn on every purchase except gift cards, services, and fees. More at Macys.com/Star Rewards. Savings off sale and clearance prices. Exclusions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Thursday will mark exactly 1 year that we have been on the air every single day with at least one new episode. I look back at the beginning of the podcast in October when I started the Daily Drops, and I shake my head to see how far we have come, and how much information we have compiled in the catalog, and how my own opinion of this story has changed as the evidence has presented itself. And for me personally, the only way to really keep up on this story is to do it the way we've been doing it. Every single day, scouring articles, updating the catalog, because this story has so many avenues and so many different pathways to traverse that if you take a couple of days off, you end up coming back and looking at the story and you feel like you're behind. So for me, the best way to catalog this, the best way to keep this ongoing conversation running is to pop on here every day, most of the time 2 times a day, and keep the story going, right? Keep the conversation moving in the proper direction. Because there's so much here to understand, right? There are so many players who are involved in this. There are so many names who are involved in this. And if we leave it up to the legacy media to add context and to go back and put some meat on the bone, we're never going to know anything about this story. So that's why we do it the way we do here every single day, mostly 2 times a day. And if warranted, more than that, right? But I think the format that we have fallen into here on the podcast has worked out really well for keeping us up to date on what's going on each and every day when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein and all of his disgusting associates. And we're going to talk about somebody today, and we're going to keep the story going in New Mexico, by the way. The Attorney General of New Mexico, Hector Balderas, turns out, well, he's a Bill Richardson guy. Does that shock you? It shouldn't, considering everything we have talked about with New Mexico, considering everything we know about Bill Richardson so far, and the new allegations that have just come into the public view. Now, you add all of that stuff up, and you add in the fact that Zorro Ranch has not been raided, that there is not a really robust state investigation going on concurrently with the federal one. You add in the fact that Jeffrey Epstein donated big-time money to the Kings, to Richardson. And then you add into the fact that Hector Balderas is a Richardson loyalist. And folks, what we have is exactly what we thought we had in New Mexico. An absolute shit show where the powerful are protected and the rest of the people, who cares? And it would be nice to see Mr. Balderas live up to the things he has said previously about an investigation and about how he cares about what occurred at Zorro Ranch. But we have heard nothing about it. We've heard nothing from the survivors. We've heard nothing from the survivors' lawyers about an investigation going on in New Mexico, a robust search for the truth. I've heard nobody. being subpoenaed in New Mexico. I haven't heard of anybody having to sit down with Mr. Balderas. I mean, if he's really serious about what occurred, why doesn't he start with the people in his very state? You know, Bill Richardson, the Kings, probably a great place to start if he was really serious about pursuing this case. But he's not. And the article that we're going to read today from 2019, July 2019, just shows you, with some hindsight as guidance, that everything that he says in this article was nothing but wind. Words are wind. Action is what we require. And Mr. Balderas and the authorities in New Mexico have not done their jobs. And, you know, I hate to say it, but from where I'm sitting, it's obvious that the Bill Richardson connection here is stagnating what's going on in New Mexico. And we have to get over that shit. All right? I don't care that he was a big-time Democratic politician. I don't care that he was Bill Clinton's homie. I don't care that he was nominated and got a seat in Obama's cabinet. That doesn't give him any cover from me anyway. It might for Hector Balderas and the rest of the people that are getting fat at the buffet of confirmation bias and those who are going deaf in their echo chamber. But me, I don't give a rat's ass who these people were involved with. Every last one of them. All right, Bill Richardson, Steve Mnuchin on the other side, all of them should be forced to testify about what they knew. And the fact that none of them have really been forced to do so, it just shows you the shell game that these so-called law enforcement officials, such as these attorney generals like Balderas, it shows you that they really do not care. Their job isn't to protect the public, folks. Their job is to play their political games and make sure that their political homies don't get caught up. Bill Richardson was caught up in a hit-and-run accident in New Mexico. Do you think anything occurred for him? Any sort of consequences? Of course not. He had to pay to fix the damage. But if you or I were involved in a hit-and-run and we took off, do you think the state police would show up at our house with some kind words for a conversation with us? Or do you think we'd be going to jail and they'd be telling us that we could tell it to the judge they really don't care? I'll say option 2, at least in my experience growing up in the inner city. Pretty much any time anyone I knew had an interaction with the police, they ended up going to jail, okay? Just about any time. And yet these scumbag sons of bitches run around involved in child sex trafficking, involved in pay-for-play schemes, involved in all sorts of heinous, disgusting, gross shit. And the only ones that are ever left holding the bag, the only ones that ever have to do any time, the only ones that ever suffer any penalties are the common person like you or I. I'm sick of it, folks. I'm really sick of it, and there needs to be accountability across the board. If I have to live my life a certain way, and I have to follow all of your dumbass rules that you make in that cesspool of Moise Eisley, a.k.a. Washington, D.C., then the rest of your rich-ass, disgusting friends, they have to live by those same exact rules. And if not, well, people like me will be here on a regular basis, running their fat mouths, letting people know just how backwards all of this is. This is never what it was meant to be, folks. All right? This is never what it was meant to be. We have been living under a state of, I don't even know what to call it, dictatorial governance since JFK's death, or a coup basically since JFK's death. Have we had one real politician, one real president elected since JFK, or has it all been manipulated? Even before then, even. See, it's all a big game. It is all a big game. And up until recently, these guys were laughing in our faces. Up until recently, these people thought they'd get away with their shit forever. But guess what? They never thought that locking us up for 6 months would have the effect that it's having. And people are digging. Information is coming out. You see it with the Panama Files. You see it with the FinCEN files. And hopefully it won't be long here before somebody blows the doors off of this whole entire thing in New Mexico. Our article today is from KOB.com. It's a local New Mexico station. And the headline is, Balderas believes previous investigations failed Epstein's alleged New Mexico victims. So basically what Balderas is saying, and what he would have you believe all the way back in 19, is that the previous investigations into what occurred with Epstein failed the survivors, but he, Mr. Balderas, good friend of accused Bill Richardson, well, he's gonna be the hero. This article was authored by Patrick Hayes and Chris Ramirez. It originally ran July 16th of 2019. Albuquerque, New Mexico. New Mexico Attorney General Hector Balderas believes other agencies that were investigating financier, pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein for child sex crimes have failed in the past. Oh yeah, and the New Mexico Division of Law Enforcement has done a sterling job here, huh? They have done a fantastic job, Mr. Balderas. Do you want a pat on the shoulder? Do you want a trophy maybe? A ribbon? For inactivity maybe? But to call out and say that other investigations have failed in the past, which they have, but and then to act like your investigation is like some kind of large, sprawling, deep dive into what occurred is laughable at best. New Mexico has not lifted a finger from where I'm sitting to help these survivors, and it's an absolute joke. What I'm very concerned with is that these survivors were not given a voice early on in the investigation, and we want to make sure we capture their story and that we do everything we can to bring justice for them, Balderas said. Now, this was July 2019. Fast forward to today. Still no large investigation in New Mexico. The ranch has not been raided. No subpoenas have been put forth. And yet the band marches on, huh? And yet Bill Richardson's buddy, Balderas here, can sit around and blow smoke up everybody's ass like they're initiating and being involved in some huge, large investigation of Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, right. In my opinion, the reason there is no investigation going on in New Mexico is because of the connections to Bill Richardson. He is the key player here, the key piece, and, like I said earlier, is basically the king of New Mexico. So the fact that his stooge, Balderas, is the attorney general, it makes you just shake your head, right? In a place like New Mexico especially, it is obvious how corrupt things are. Following charges being filed in New York, Balderas said he has reached out to some of Epstein's alleged victims. Well, I don't know about that. I haven't heard anybody talking about how Hector Balderas has stepped forward to try and get things going in New Mexico. I mean, he might have behind the scenes. Again, I'm not privy to what goes on behind the scenes. I'm just like the rest of you. I don't have, that sort of inside information. But you would think in a year that we would have heard something, right? A little bit of something about New Mexico if they were really engaged in trying to help these survivors. But we haven't heard nothing. And when I went to Zorro Ranch in February, certainly wasn't any police yellow tape anywhere. There certainly weren't any FBI investigators pulling things out of the house. All was normal. And if it was up to New Mexico and the leadership there, the people who are in charge behind the scenes and the ones who make these decisions, it would stay that way. They don't want this to come out. They don't want to be blown up. They don't want their role in this sex scheme, this child trafficking enterprise, to take center stage. But they can only hide for so long. Something really, really bad was going on at Zorro Ranch, folks. And I plan on getting to the bottom of it. What I can confirm is that we are interviewing many survivors and victims, Balderas said. I can't comment as to the specific nature at this time. Yeah, maybe, again, behind the scenes, maybe that stuff was occurring. But I have not heard any of that, okay? I have not heard anyone talk about how Balderas is stepping up to the plate here, how he's trying to help out, how he's trying to do the right thing, how he's trying to be a better man. All I see is more shadows, more secrecy, and more BS coming out of New Mexico. And the new report on Bill Richardson, well, that's just the cherry on top, right? That adds the context, that adds more meat to the bone, and it shows you, when looked at in the big picture, that Bill Richardson is another scuzzbag who really needs to sit down under oath and explain in detail his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Anything less than that is a dereliction of duty on the part of the U.S. government. Balderas is investigating what happened at Epstein's ranch in Stanley, New Mexico, and other parts of the state. Yeah, okay, sure. Such a large, sprawling investigation, Mr. Balderas. You should just be commended for your great work here. More than a decade ago, Epstein was accused of sex crimes involving underage girls in New Mexico. However, he was never formally charged. Yeah, never, not once in New Mexico, never once, not on the sex registry list, never charged, nothing. Dude went down to New Mexico and lived like a proverbial king, even with this cloud over his head. Business as usual in New Mexico, though. And you mean to tell me that this Balderas character can get up there and talk about his investigations and how he cares about what's going on? Please. I've been doing extensive research into New Mexico for this case and, obviously, my other story that I'm working on, the West Mesa bone collector story that happened in New Mexico as well. 11 dead girls, still nobody caught. Something stinks in New Mexico. This was a multi-state trafficking operation, and there were great risks that were ignored in the past, Balderas said. Yeah, great risks that were ignored in the past because your boy Bill Richardson was involved, huh? Why don't you take the blinders off there, Mr. Balderas? Why don't you really dig in, huh? State law. As a part of a 2008 plea deal federal prosecutors gave to Epstein, he was required to register as a sex offender. It's unknown whether Epstein registered with New Mexico authorities while he lived here in the state, or if state laws require that he register. Well, we already know that that's not the case. He didn't have to register. He registered, and then he was sent a letter by DPS saying that he did not have to register because his crimes in that state didn't warrant it. I mean, are you kidding me right now? The laws in New Mexico? They don't even have, stringent trafficking laws on the books in New Mexico, or at least didn't when Epstein was running things. So, if ever a state needed an overhaul, if ever a state needed to catch up with the times when it comes to sex crimes and human trafficking, New Mexico is that state. And if I was an indigenous girl living in New Mexico, a family who had a daughter who was indigenous, I would be moving out of there ASAP. Because there's a serious problem with indigenous girls going missing in New Mexico and nobody giving a goddamn about it. Bill Richardson connection. Tuesday morning, the Albuquerque Journal reported former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson's spokesman confirmed Richardson had visited Epstein's Zorro Ranch at least one time while campaigning for governor with his wife. It's always with the wife, right? Dershowitz, I was with my wife. Jess Staley, I was with my wife. As if your wife is like this moral compass that we can rely on as a solid witness. Her decision-making is already called into question by marrying a scumbag like you. Now all of a sudden I'm just supposed to take her word as gospel? Sorry, what if your wife was sick and into it too? Again, I don't know if that's the case, but how am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to just believe your narrative when all of the evidence points in a different direction? The Journal reported Richardson's name was found in Epstein's Little Black Book, which is now filed as a court record. Richardson is on a witness list that also includes President Donald Trump. When asked whether the New Mexico Attorney General's office was looking at the Richardson connection, Balderas said he couldn't elaborate on specific details about the scope of the investigation. AKA translation, Richardson's not being looked into. Richardson put me in this position. He's a kingmaker. I can't go after my buddy Bill Richardson. That's basically what Balderas is telling us here. He's such a joke and a clown, and the people, the great people of New Mexico, certainly deserve much better. I loved my time in New Mexico with the people. They were very, very, very welcoming, very warm, and it was a very enjoyable stay from that perspective. But those very people deserve so much better than they're getting from this Balderas character. It's premature for me to comment on the specifics. What I can assure you is the investigation is active, and we will be forwarding this evidence to New York prosecutors, Balderas said. So, you're just going to forward all of the evidence to the New York prosecutors, huh? Kick it to the federal level so that you have the cover from your boy Billy Richardson. You could say to Bill, look, I didn't initiate this. It's the feds. It wasn't me. And you still have your cover there with your good boy Billy, huh? Too much of a coward to run it through your own state. What's the point of being the Attorney General if you aren't going to man up and go after the most sick and the most perverse criminals your state has to offer? And if you can find somebody sicker and more twisted than Jeffrey Epstein and those who were involved with him, I am most certainly all ears. But until that point comes, I'm here to tell you that Balderas, the government of New Mexico, and everybody else involved in investigating Zorro Ranch has been negligent in their duty. If you'd like to contact me, you could do that at Bobbycapucci at protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All right, everybody, all of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. I'll be back later on, and we will pick back up where we left off.
San Manuel is hiring, and you're invited to a virtual career expo on Thursday, February 18th from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Explore career options, interview, and apply for positions in facilities, table games, guest services, retail, transportation, slots, and more. Registration is going on now and every day at careerexpo.sanmanuel.com. San Manuel, let's build something greater together. San Manuel is hiring, and you're invited to a virtual career expo on Thursday, February 18th from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Explore career options, interview, and apply for positions in facilities, table games, guest services, retail, transportation, slots, and more. Registration is going on now and every day at careerexpo.sanmanuel.com. San Manuel, let's build something greater together.